Hi guys. Throughout the semester, my group and I did a regional deep dive in Northern Europe. Northern Europe is part of the European continent with 10 nations. And for this deep dive, we mainly looked into 6 countries, which are Denmark, Finland, Iceland, Greenland, Norway, and Sweden. In terms of the Gulf Stream affects the climate. In the western parts, they experience marine subarctic. In the central, northern, eastern parts, they experience Arctic climate. In general, they experience harsh winters and frequent snowstorms. In terms of topography, the Alpine Mountains and the Northern European Plain mostly take up their geography. So, diving into culture, major religions beliefs include evangelical Lutheran Christianity, Orthodox Christians, Sunni Islam, and Orthodox Judaism. And Northern European takes education seriously. So in terms of literacy rates, Denmark is at 100%, Finland 89, Iceland 97, Norway 97, and Sweden 96. The languages spoken in these countries are Denmark, Danish, Finland, Finnish, Iceland, Icelandic, Greenland, West Greenlandic, Norway, Norwegian, and Sweden, Swedish. So in terms of the most famous styles of music throughout the whole region, it consists of folk, Norse, electronic dance, pop, and heavy metal. And some major arts include William Shakespeare, Hans Christianity Andersen, and Romanticism.
So in terms of organizational structure of Northern Europe, their leadership styles vary. They vary from egalitarian to hierarchical. Egalitarian means the ideal distance between a boss and a subordinate is very close. And the best boss is one that is a facilitator and is equal to its subordinates. So therefore, in this organizational structure, it is very flat, meaning the communication goes from person to person, and it skips the hierarchical version of a boss being a boss and the subordinates reporting to their manager, which reports to their boss. In the hierarchical sense, the ideal distance between the boss and a subordinate is high and very long. So this boss is a very strong leader and one who's in charge of everyone. Therefore, their status in the company is very important. So in this organizational structure, it is very multi-layered and fixed, meaning they will report to a manager and they will report to the boss. So therefore, this allows for less communication between a boss and a subordinate. Therefore, in this chart, you can see that Denmark, Netherlands, and Sweden and Finland are more on the egalitarian side, meaning the communication is very good.
So there are many ways that culture of Northern Europe affects doing business there. The first thing to know is that over the years, these countries have experienced a rise in international migration that has increased the level of diversity in these nations. So Northern European countries are becoming multicultural and are known for being tolerant towards foreigners. Another huge piece of Northern Europe society is that they all offer free higher education, which has led to businesses offering programs that encourage and enable further education. So since attending college is the norm, businesses have implemented even more advanced learning into their structures for entry-level employees to continue their education in the workplace. Some cultural taboos of Northern Europe are arguments are always avoided. So if a discussion appears to be turning into an argument, they will abruptly change the subject. Also, do not use a lot of superlatives when speaking. They are opposed to stretching the truth, and the marks of rank or status are disliked. And then do not get too personal. Topics like family, income, personal background should be avoided. And then this graphic is from looking at Northern Europe from Hofstede's cultural dimensions. So Northern Europe is monochronic when it comes to time. So this means that they look to do just one thing at a time and value a certain orderliness and a sense of there being an appropriate time and place for everything. And they do not like interruptions. So how this might affect business is that Northern Europeans are expecting one task with specific deadlines, and this can definitely be beneficial for your company because employees finish tasks with a higher degree of focus and little interruption. However, if your business operates as having many tasks and with less defined and distinct deadlines, this could be difficult for Northern Europeans to adapt to. And then moving on to the individualistic side of their culture. So this means that their society is very independence oriented rather than identifying with group mentality. So if you're trying to operate your business in Northern Europe, it's important to know that your employees value their personal individual goals, rights, freedoms, and self-expression. And oftentimes in individualistic cultures, as Juliana already said, the lines between managers and lower level employees are blurred. So it's important that your company promotes less restrictive organizational structures that lead to empowering your employees. And this can be difficult when your business is trying to communicate with Northern European companies because the relaxed leadership structure could be confusing when figuring out who you need to be talking to. And then lastly, they have a specific thinking culture, which basically means that they keep their personal and work life separate. So like I said earlier, when I was going through the cultural taboos, be sure not to get too personal in conversation when asking about family and just other personal background information. So now moving into some information about the economy of Northern Europe. As you may already know, they have one of the best economies in the world with a GDP per capita of about 65,000 on average. And then personal income per capita is approximately $35,775. And then the unemployment rate is 6.5%. The largest contributors to their economy is manufacturing, specifically automobile manufacturing in countries like Germany, as well as fishing, forestry, shipping, and mining. Germany is Europe's largest economy, and it is the fourth largest in terms of nominal GDP in the world. And then the wealth distribution as a whole is about 16% to the lower class, 75% to the middle class, and then 7% for the upper class, which means that their economic inequality is fairly low. And actually, Norway has the best distribution of wealth in the world.
So next we're going to talk about basic consumer groups in Northern Europe. Like Claire said, and like Amelia said, I'm going to touch on what they both said, but Northern Europeans' medium age varies from around 38 to 45 years old. And their average household purchasing power is increasing significantly throughout these last couple of years. And Norwegians' average salary is among the highest in Northern Europe and Europe as a whole, with an average salary of 62,000 USD and 547 NOK. And like Claire said, Northern Europeans have they take education very seriously, and many countries in Northern Europe have an educational level of 80 or above. Northern European countries are consumer societies, so they're more willing to pay for quality and innovative products rather than products that are cheaper. Denmark and Norway especially are drawn to newer technological products like green energy and electronics. In fact, Denmark and Norway are also very invested in creating new green energy and electronics. Online merchandising is also gaining some steam in Northern Europe, and like other countries around the world, they're mostly purchasing fashion, electronics, and online media rather than in their online stores rather than in store. And my last point is, while Northern European countries are open to international brands, they are mostly loyal to their national brands and products, with the exception of Norway, which has a 39% chance of buying products from international brands online.
So next I'm going to talk about business regulations. There weren't many or any laws and rules that need to be followed while conducting business in Northern Europe, but like Amelia and Juliana said, being aware of the culture and the etiquettes that you should follow when conducting business is really important to the Northern Europeans. Touching off what they said, you should write a thank you note for your job interviewer or whoever you conducted your meeting with in business to leave a good impression on them. It will show that you're interested and care, as well as knowing the names going into the meetings to increase communication and show that you did your research on the company and who you're meeting with before you go into the meeting, especially if it's the first time meeting with this company. Being mindful of the elevator rule and when it's appropriate to begin discussing business meetings. Every country is a little bit different on their stance on this, so you want to make sure that you are aware of when would be the perfect time to start conducting business. You don't want to step off the elevator and immediately start talking about business if that is not what your the country believes in. And then lastly, to just turn your phone off during the meeting for respect for the company and the business when you are in these meetings.
So next, we're going to talk about the political issues that are affecting business in Northern Europe. Right now, what's going on is Brexit. Brexit is the United Kingdom leaving the European Union. And if you ask yourself why that is, it is due to wanting fiscal independence. Although, this has caused different issues. It has caused tighter border control in the UK, which impacts businesses, freight shipping, and higher tariffs. The reason it has impacted freight shipping is that each country has different regulations against customs. So therefore, if the European Union changes those, it may affect them. Also, it affected tariffs. Higher tariffs is due to regulations also. Also, if by the end of the year there's no new trade deal or no deal, this will result in many business changes. That will affect import and export payments, transfer of personal data, environmental industrial standards, which can impact different food industries, different tree industries, lumber, and lastly, banking, insurance, and auditing procedures. Next, on the right, you can see the euro compared to the US dollar. This exchange rate has changed over time significantly. As you can see in the beginning of the 90s to the 2000s, the US dollar and the European dollar was very close, meaning that both economies were strong. But in the latter years, you can see that that has begun to fluctuate and their economies changed. There is increased benefits to using the euro, these being borrowing costs, competitiveness, and trade deficit. If the euro were to collapse, that would be detrimental to businesses. And that is because the euro contributes to the economy and the economy affects businesses. And if investors aren't investing in businesses, that can lead to a lot of unemployment. And so as you can see, these political tensions and the effectiveness of using the euro is very important. For a long time, northern countries have had a lot of tension with southern countries, and this is due to their poor fiscal policy. In the north, they have strong fiscal policy, whereas in countries in the south, for example, Greece and Italy over time has had poor fiscal policy as their economies have lowered. And due to this tension, there has been calls to separate or to have different regulations that would affect both sides, the north and the south. Also, Europeans are calling for an opportunity to recognize and support businesses. Small business and medium businesses need to be supported by the banks and should have more incentive from the banks to be able to lend. If they're able to lend, then their economy can strengthen. Lastly, the political leadership to discipline financial markets instead of being disciplined by financial markets. What this quote means is they want to be active in the process of the market rather than have to react later. And that is the political issues in the business in the Northern Europe. Thank you all for listening today, and I hope you all know a little bit more about Northern Europe.